Hello, Notre Dame fans. I am Ashton Pollard here with Tyler Horka for blueandgold.com, and we just wrapped up our fourth viewing session of practice. It's the last one before the spring game. It was their 12th practice overall, and we only got to watch the first 5 periods, so didn't get a ton of information, but we did want to start with what is kind of the story of the day, even though technically it doesn't really have to do with the Notre Dame football team. Former LSU and Ole Miss head coach Ed Orgeron was here today at practice. Tyler, what can you tell us about why he was here?
Well, he got to watch the whole practice, so number one, I'm envious of that. But he's just showing up to kind of glean some things as, I guess, an unemployed coach. You want to stay around football, and he said he's enjoyed the time off, but he tried to hire Marcus Freeman, I guess that would be a year ago, just over a year ago, after the 2020 season. So he has a relationship from Marcus Freeman from that. Obviously, Marcus Freeman chose to be the Notre Dame defensive coordinator instead of the LSU defensive coordinator. It's worked out pretty well for Marcus Freeman, I would say, and Ed Orgeron said that himself. We got to talk to him after the practice for about 2 or 3 minutes, and he said the practice looked really good. He noticed Harry Heastand bright and early, I guess. Probably about 7:30, 7:45, Harry Heastand was the first person that he noticed this morning at Notre Dame practice. I think the offensive line got a lot of really good work in. You saw Ed Orgeron standing next to the defensive line and outside going through some of those drills. It looked like he was watching pretty intently. So just kind of cool to have a guy who won a national title as a head coach, 2 years ago at practice. So he definitely spoke to the team afterwards. Marcus Freeman allowed him to do that because, like I said, anytime a guy wins a national championship, whether it was Joe Burrow who did most of the heavy lifting, 15 NFL draft picks that year, something crazy, whatever it was, Ed Orgeron still led that team, so it was kind of cool to have him here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, like Tyler said, we got to talk with him after, and he said he's having a lot of fun not being employed right now. He's not going to coach this upcoming year, but he was asked if he would get back into it. He didn't totally rule it out, but yeah, definitely said that he's good for the time being, which honestly, I don't really blame him. So then moving into the actual football team, like I said, we only got to watch the first 5 periods, so not a ton, but there was an interesting note on Cam Hart. Can you elaborate on that, Tyler?
Yeah, we got to talk to Cam Hart afterwards as well. He's not a full participant. He had labral surgery for his shoulder. I guess that would have been a couple months ago, probably right after the bowl game. So he's definitely far from 100%, but it was good to see him suited up, running around out there. I would like to see what he looks like beyond the first 20, 25 minutes because I have a feeling he's not doing too much considering he's a couple months off of a major shoulder surgery. But he said physically, lower body, he feels as good as he's ever felt. So this offseason has been a lot about footwork for him, just going through some of the motions as a corner. He still looks very physically imposing in the upper body as well, I would notice. He's the boundary corner on this team for a reason. He's a really good looking cornerback, so it was good to see him out there. Beyond that, though, like I said, don't expect to see him in the blue gold game or anything like that because he's coming off a serious surgery.
Yeah, and then also in addition to Cam Hart, we got to talk with cornerbacks coach Mike Mickens today. I thought kind of the main takeaway, other than what he was talking about with Hart, was he's been really impressed with the rising sophomores. So Phillip Riley, Chance Tucker, Ryan Barnes. That was kind of my big takeaway from that conversation. I know you were talking with Cam, so you weren't talking with Mickens as much, but was there anything else that stuck out to you that Mickens said while you were over there?
Well, yeah, kind of going off of that, what Cam Hart said, and Clarence Lewis said it as well, is Jaden Mickey does not lack confidence. And we've seen that a little bit in some of the, especially that full practice that we got to watch a couple weeks ago. He's not afraid to come up and make a play, and when he makes a play, he's going to let you know about it. Clarence Lewis was kind of like, never really seen a guy let us know, this is good on good. This is blue on gold, Notre Dame versus Notre Dame, and he lets those wide receivers know when he makes a play. So I think that's something that Notre Dame fans were wanting out of Jaden Mickey because that cornerback group, especially with Cam Hart sidelined with his shoulder injury, is a little thin. And going past this season, Cam Hart's a senior, Clarence Lewis is a senior or junior, excuse me. Those guys are getting a little bit older, and you don't know what the cornerback situation looks like beyond 2022. So it's good to see that Jaden Mickey 2023, 2024 is probably going to be a starter, and he's going to be here for a while. Outside of that, the young guys, everyone says they're looking good, so that's one of the most intriguing things about the blue gold game for me is you're going to see 2 sets of cornerbacks, and Cam Hart is not going to be one of those. So a lot of these younger guys are going to have an opportunity to step up. I can't wait to see if they do, because it's one thing to say that they're looking good. It's another thing to actually look good.
Yeah, and in our brief, I guess, two sessions ago when we got to watch the whole practice, Ryan Barnes was taking some first-team reps, which I thought was interesting. So something to look out for in the blue gold game. And then kind of lastly, offensive notes. Again, not a ton, but there was an interesting, I guess, play, you could call it, to start off kind of the workout. Tyler, what did that look like?
Yeah, it was one of those patented Marcus Freeman openers where he pits offense versus defense, trying to open the practice with a little bit of fire, light a fire under the guys. And it was the third team offense versus the third team defense. There was a little bit of mixing and matching going on. Some other guys out there that you normally see with maybe the second team. But Steve Angeli was leading the offense, so shout out to Mike Singer. I'm sure you love to hear that. However, defense won the drill. Steve Angeli hand off to Chase Ketterer, and Will Schweitzer kind of met him at the goal line, made sure he didn't get in. Defense goes crazy. Offense runs the gasser. So score one for the defense, and I'm sure former defensive coordinator, now head coach Marcus Freeman might have been fist pumping a little bit, under his breath, saying, yeah, those are my guys, those are my old guys. So it's just cool to see practice start out that way, because normally you go from stretching and then all of a sudden quarterbacks are, throwing to a grad assistant, or they're still getting their arm loose or anything. No, Marcus Freeman throws these guys right into the fire, and defense gets a win, and I'm sure the offense is going to hear about that for a little bit of time. Maybe from Jaden Mickey, even though he wasn't the one that made the play.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, in the scrimmage last week, I guess it was, the offense won that, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So I guess a little bit of payback from the defense. Yeah, otherwise, that's kind of all we got, unless any closing notes.
On the injury front, I guess Jared Patterson was not wearing the sling. He told us that last week, that he was going to try to take it off this week. He was still working out with the players in the pit, and there's quite a few of those, by the way. Bumps and bruises in spring practice are definitely a thing. So it was good to see him take the sling off, working out over there. Otherwise, all the running backs were healthy. Joe Wilkins was working out in the pit as well, but outside of that, Deion Colsley, Lorenzo Styles, Braden Lindsey, those guys were all healthy. So if you're worried about the wide receivers, those guys are there, because I know Notre Dame can't really afford to drop another one.
Yeah, all 5 of them or whatever. Yeah, awesome. Well, that's kind of our last look at practice before the spring game, which will be next Saturday, so the 23rd. We don't have access to any more practice, although we do, I think, get to talk to the captains of the teams that are drafted next week ahead of the game. So I guess we're looking forward to that, and we'll post a bunch of stuff on blueandgold.com. Also, if you have not signed up, it is still $1. You're going to want that spring practice info. Also, recruiting season's about to get started again after a little bit of a quieter period. So yeah, $1 on blueandgold.com. That deal will not be around forever, so you definitely want to go grab it while it's still there. That is all we have. I am Ashton Pollard with Tyler Horka, and we will see you next time.